see what we can. There's a trying to get this door panel off due to shall we say a rather stubborn electric window. I've lubed the channel, but the window motor still seems to not really want to do what it wants to do. So I've popped the plastic pieces. I've removed 2 screws inside the door handle, and I've removed this trim piece. I cannot find any other screws, so I'm now lifting up.
And that's usually how most door panels are designed. You have to lift up on them and pull them out, and then now you're going to have a whole bunch of wires to disconnect for your speakers and everything else.
Thankfully, this vehicle does not have door speakers. However, it is catching on something. I can't really see what.
And there's going to be a vapor barrier in there, which is this foam thing. So basically what happened was, as if you guys can't tell, it's currently raining outside. And because we've got the other car in the garage, the Chevy S-10 was parked in the yard, and it started raining this morning, and this window was about half down. So
partly in preparation to do what we're doing now.
Yeah, so Weasel quickly parked it back under here. Rather than messing with the window in the morning like that, it wouldn't go back up. Quickly parked it under here. The S-10 didn't get too much water inside the interior there. But now we're just going to go ahead and see if we can find something quick and easy in here to fix, and see if we can get this motor working again. He's pulling off the sound deadener and vapor barrier.
Which is not something you'd expect to find on a pickup.
Oh yeah, most of them have them because it's going to protect the inside of the door panel from corrosion. Is that held on there with a nylon fastener?
Yeah.
I'll show you a really good trick. Take you a pair of nylon, or a pair of needle nose pliers, get it in between there like that, and pry. Of course it's broken now, but we might be able to reuse that. It looks like you've got...
I thought my fingers would have worked though for that.
Well, it's old and they can get kind of brittle as they age.
I mean, it might have been no matter how careful we were.
Here you can see the power window switches and how that's all put together. This plug just comes right on off. We'll have to take that off, take out the switches, put the door panel aside so we can actuate the window mechanism to see what's going on inside.
I'm hoping maybe we can just leave it set here like so, because that would be rather nice.
Yeah. Anyway guys, we're going to go ahead and wrestle with this vapor barrier and sound deadener, and we'll pick up from there. Well, we've got the door panel off now, and we have isolated it to what we think is going to be the motor. We've taken some measurements with the voltometer here. We're not pulling a lot of current. And of course we have the cat up here helping out on the roof.
I didn't even know she was up there.
Yep, she's helping out. So we've got a diabolical plan here for this little motor. What we're going to do, since we theorized that commutator is dirty and has high resistance...
Let it be known, this is Shadow Rider's idea, so if he blows the motor, it's his fault.
Yes, I take full responsibility. We have a 12-volt starting battery pack here that you guys have seen in some of the other videos. What we're going to do is we're going to wire this battery in series with the battery in this truck, and we're going to briefly shoot 24 volts across these 2 leads right here to try to kickstart that motor, just to kind of test the theory that the commutator is dirty. It should cause a pretty good arcing in that commutator and may self-clean. I'm not sure yet. At the very least, it should get the window motor up to a point where we'll have better access to pull the window motor out of there. So this is going to take about 10 hands, so we're going to have to stop recording here, and we'll let you guys see the results. Or go down a blaze of glory, one or the other. Well guys, we managed to manually put the window up after a lot of testing and everything. We tested the continuity of the window switch just to make sure we didn't have a window switch problem. And we also shot 24 volts through the 2 motor terminals to try to excite that motor just a little bit to break it loose, but it basically just ran like it did before with the 12 volts. And we also went directly here into the motor contacts to just eliminate any possibility of any wiring concerns. And we pretty much isolated the problem to the motor itself, which is kind of bad news because this regulator has to come out of here. We do have the new part. We went ahead and bought a new part versus remanufactured part. And here's what the component looks like. It's not really something I've ever seen before. It's most of the time it just has a separate motor attached to the gear train. This looks like it's all one stamped steel piece. And unfortunately it's not repairable. I wanted to be able to take this apart, maybe clean the commutator just to kind of get it going, but unfortunately it's basically done for. And to make matters worse, the motor is riveted to the regulator at these various points here. So we got a lot of work to do. Fortunately, the new part does come with replacement screws in place of the rivets once we drill the rivets out, so we're covered there. And we also have a nut and bolt assortment that we can choose from. I'm looking at these particular bolts here because they're short, that we can choose from to replace the rivets here that are going to be holding the regulator on. We're going to have to drill out these 4 rivets and kind of work that regulator down, work it off of the slider mechanism and kind of get it out of this cavity here. Once the regulator is out, we're still going to have to drill out the rivets that hold the motor in. So it's actually quite a bit of work. It's more work than what I'm actually used to, like on a Ford or a Mercedes or, you know, any of my cars, but still the same process. I just never have seen a motor like this. Anyway, we're gonna start drilling. We've got a...
I'm getting the window so it's not going to fall down on us. I'm using paper to protect the paint and then about 3 or 4 strips of duct tape.
Yep, because once we get this regulator out of here, the window is going to want to fall down, and we just don't want anything happening by accident because it's going to be pretty expensive to replace this glass.
And the WD-40 will take the duct tape residue off like that.
Yep.
But I don't, it should be, it'll probably come off the paint, but scrap paper's easy and cheap.
Yep. And we've got a pretty good assortment of drill bits here we're going to choose from. We're going to start small, and we're going to start in the center of that rivet there and just work our way up until that rivet pops out of there. So hopefully the next shot will be the regulator removed. Right now Weasel's got his safety glasses on, which you always want to do when you start drilling, and what he's going to do is drill right in the center of that rivet. We've already got the first rivet out, and then what he did to make it easier was soaked it in WD-40 to act as a lubricant.
It drifted.
Yeah. Sometimes WD-40 is a little bit too good of a lubricant.
What I should have done it like I did the other one is get it started, then hit it with the lube.
Right. Make yourself a little dimple in there, and that way the bit's not going to want to walk around on it.
Exactly. So let me get the crud off the tip, and I'm going to try and angle it back.
Yeah.
So if you excuse me, I kind of want to get down like this.
Sure. I think the viewers get the general idea. We're going to go ahead and drill out the rest of these rivets just like we're doing here. And we'll get this regulator on out of here finally. Okay guys, we're back, and Weasel has finally drilled out all 4 rivets, and actually that went much smoother than expected. We kept spraying it with WD-40 as he was drilling.
The one that was filmed was actually, I think, the worst one.
Yeah, and he had a really good idea, because as we were drilling out these rivets, that regulator would want to fall, and he found a zip tie and just put a zip tie in here temporarily. So now we have this whole thing loose. All we have to do is, we've got the connector removed, and all we have to do now is cut that zip tie and work this regulator backwards to get it off of the window channel, and then try to force it back out of here through this larger opening. We're probably going to have to remove 1 or 2 of these actuator rods that go to the door handle as well as the lock. It shouldn't be too hard to do, but we'll try to leave them in place for now and remove them only if we have to. So next shot should be the regulator out of the car. Well guys, the regulator actually came out a lot easier than expected. We did not have to remove these 2 actuator arms. And my initial hunch was, because since the roller was all the way back here, or on this side already, I could just go backwards. But the regulator motor was hitting the power lock mechanism. So what I did was I just went forward like this with the regulator arm, and just was able to work the entire assembly kind of out at an angle this way. So now that we're done with this part of the job, we can come over here and you can see what this thing looks like. And in this case, it's going to be a little bit easier than I thought it would be. The motor is held in with these 3 rivets right here, and these rivets should be a lot easier to drill out than the larger ones that held the whole regulator in. And we'll just take this motor off, and we'll go ahead and put the new motor on with the screws that came in the kit. Well, now we have the new power window motor on, and it should be noted that Beavis and Butthead approves of the shape of this arm, which is suggestive of other appendages. Anyway, we now have the screws, the nuts and bolts on, and we learned the hard way. You can see now that we have a nice little scrape here with the grease. What you want to do when you put this back together is put these bolts and nuts and bolts on where the long end is facing upward away from you. That way there's not going to be any interference with the fasteners when you roll the window up. So that was actually not too bad of a job. But the other thing you want to look out for and be careful of, this happened to us, but we were not hurt or anything. Once this motor is taken off of the regulator, this spring is going to spring back violently. So you want to be careful of that, and go ahead and let the spring off gradually. Set the spring aside, put the motor on, make sure the window is in the up position, or the regulator is in the up position, and then work this into the spring onto the stop here first, and then take some needle nose pliers and twist the spring just a little bit. It's all it takes to work it into the groove. If you try to do this with the regulator in the down position, the spring is going to have to be wound up much tighter, and it takes a lot of force to get that spring to wind up. And the purpose of that spring is when you go ahead and roll the window down, it actually winds the spring up, so when you roll it up, it actually helps fight gravity. This spring actually helps the motor lift the window up. Probably something like a 80-20 power split between the two. So anyway, we're going to go ahead, since we have this sitting on the ground, we're going to go ahead and take some towels and clean off all the debris that we got on here. We're going to clean some of this old grease off of here and put some new grease on here. And we're going to go ahead and put it back in this S-10. So now we have the window regulator all worked up in here, and it didn't go too badly actually. We did have it advanced a little bit farther beyond its travel, so the holes didn't line up between the door panel and the regulator, so we just had to hook it up to the car and roll it down just a little bit. All the holes lined up, and I was able to work my fingers in here to get the bolts in. And I also lubricated the channel in here for the wiper there.
As well as we're lubricating those while it's all apart.
Yep, we took some white lithium grease. So that's all nice and smooth for another 100,000 miles. And now we've got lock washers on the other side of this, so I should be able to tighten these up good and snug. Got my finger back here to make sure that, just to detect if it's turning on me or not. And it's just a matter of tightening these up. The O'Reilly's Auto Parts kit that we showed at the beginning of the video had the perfect nut and bolt combination for this. They have to be on the short side so that when the regulator mechanism operates, it doesn't have any interference.
We did have to come up with these bolts on our own. We just bought a kit of bolts and nuts at O'Reilly. However, they did not come with the lock washers. However, I had some in stock.
Yeah, that works. So these are actually starting to spin on me. So what I'm going to have to do is get a 10mm box wrench and get on the back side of these and go ahead and tighten them up. And in the next shot, you will actually see this power window operating normally for the first time in how long?
It's been acting up as long as I've had the truck. It's just gotten worse and worse slowly.
That's like a couple of years, right?
Yeah, it's been 2 or 3 years. One other thing we're going to do as a preventive maintenance is, it's already been partly done, but we're going to spray this and the motor connector as well as the switch with some deoxit while we have this open. It won't hurt. Doing so won't hurt anything other than the, few cents worth of deoxit being used, and just to be on the safe side. So,
I just wanted to focus a little bit on the old part here. Neither of us has a service manual for this Chevy S-10, and I've never worked on a Chevrolet before. So what we did was we went to rockauto.com or any other website you can think of, like O'Reilly's, and we actually saw what this motor looked like and saw how it was fastened, and that gave us the idea of how to go ahead and get that thing off the regulator. We went ahead and were able to put a box wrench behind here on these two fasteners there. We got everything tightened down.
We still need to hit it with the metal protectant.
We have some metal protector we'll put over here to act as a anti-corrosive. We've got the ignition on and the switch is hooked up, and now Weasel's going to test this window for the first time before we go ahead and button everything back up. I call that an epic win.
I agree.
Yeah, one more time, just to...
You all probably saw in the video, a little bit of crud kind of got picked up on the window.
A little bit.
So let's go ahead and clean that off. That is booking it. I might actually, I might have to take that door apart just to put some fresh grease on it.
Yeah, we just basically used grease that he had in the grease gun for the gear between the motor and the sector gear in there. And I
was
used
thinking just doing that probably be what it would take.
I'll just use regular white lithium grease here for this particular part of it. So I think we have a happy weasel here.
Tired weasel.
Tired weasel. We're going to go ahead and put the sound deadener pad back on here.
We're going to Shadow Rider noticed that this tape has kind of come loose, so we're going to put some fresh tape over it to kind of button all that up for neatness purposes, and then hit this with that metal protectant, which I just happen to have right back here from the bike ride. So,
and if you look at the top of the can, it actually says it's for motorcycle chain lube, so it works on bicycle chains very well. It's going to act as a lubricant and also set up a waxy-like coating on there. That's all you need. And don't worry about the runs and everything. It'll eventually dry, and that'll prevent any kind of corrosion from getting on these fasteners because they're not stainless steel.
If it runs too much, I'll just feed the truck some Pepto-Bismol.
That's right, that'll work. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get the sound deadener on here and the door panel, and we'll show you guys what everything looks like. Okay guys, we have now finished the driver's side power window job on this 1991 S-10. We got the door panel all put on, and while we had it off, we took the opportunity to clean all down in these dew wipes, as well as the armrest and this vent down here. Got all the dust out, so the door panel looks like new. We put the oxide on the switch contacts and everything, and now Weasel's going to give it one more final test.
Fast.
Very fast. And I think from what he was saying, it's been bothering him for about 2 years, and he got to the point where he just didn't want to use the window anymore because it was just he wasn't sure whether it was going to go back up once it came down again.
And it was such a pain to get it down.
Yeah, pain to get it down, and now he's got full confidence it's going to work, and also one less thing for the state inspector to ding him on.
And man, so much easier to go through the drive-through, which I normally don't use anyway, but I can use the drive-through now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So hopefully this video will help you guys. We pointed out some of the pitfalls to watch out for, especially with this motor here. When you get the motor off of the regulator, be careful of that spring unwinding on you violently, as well as which directions to put the fasteners in so it doesn't interfere with the regulator arm going up and down. Never quite had a motor fail like this where it'd run for a couple of seconds and stop, and then after 5 more minutes run for a couple of seconds and stop. Most of the time the motors will just freewheel, or they'll just be open circuit. So that's kind of interesting, but it appears this motor was definitely not designed to be opened up and looked at. So we'll just go ahead and dispose of that, and we'll enjoy the new motor in this driver's side door.